Just before we get started with today's video, I will say that it is brought to you by Bespoke Post, which is a trendy monthly membership club delivering amazing boxes of top shelf goods from under the radar brands. Every month, Bespoke Post introduces its member to great new products from outdoor gear to barware to home and kitchen goods, clothing, and more, all based on a preference quiz that you fill out. It's free to join. You can skip a month anytime. Bespoke Post sent me this beer making kit. It makes an IPA, and in the box is everything you need to make it. They've got all of the bottles, and the beer is made from hops and tubes and everything you need, including instructions, of course. Very handy. Every box is about $70 in retail value, but costs just $45, and you can preview the box before it ships and decide if you want to keep it, swap it, or skip the month for no charge. Also, the box lineup constantly changes, so it can be great for you or a great holiday gift too. They also sent me this Weekender bag, which is a fantastic bag for a weekend away. You just load it up, very sturdy. It's canvas, it's got these metal supports. Just what you need. Right now, you guys can get 20% off your first box by going to bspk.me/brainfood20, or just clicking the link in the description below and entering brainfood20 at checkout. And now today's video. Few secret societies throughout history have captured the public imagination like the infamous Order of Assassins, the secretive Islamic sect which operated out of the mountains of modern-day Iran and Syria between the 11th and 13th century CE, has inspired countless works of popular fiction, from the novels Alamut by Vladimir Bartol and Angels and Demons by Dan Brown to the enormously successful Assassin's Creed video game, and they even gave us our modern word for targeted political murder. These stories typically portray the assassins as drugged-out fanatics obsessed with the number 7 and kill in the name of their mysterious leader, the Old Man of the Mountain. Yet despite their fearsome reputation, in reality the popular legend of the assassins is more a product of myth and propaganda than any actual historical deeds. The roots of the Order of the Assassins lie in the origins of Shia Islam itself. The Shia are one of two main Islamic sects, second only to the Sunni in terms of worldwide followers. The main rift between the sects lies in the succession of leadership following the death of the Prophet Muhammad. While Shias believe Muhammad designated his son-in-law Ali ibn Abi Talib as his spiritual and political successor, known as a caliph or imam, Sunnis believe no such appointment occurred, and that Muhammad's father-in-law Abu Bakr was the first rightful caliph. As so often happens with new religious movements, both Sunni and Shia Islam quickly fractured into a number of subsects. While today there are two main branches of Shia Islam, Twelvers and Ismailis, in the early days Shi'ism was considerably more diverse, with dozens of unique subsects appearing and disappearing over the years. Shias believed that leadership of the Muslim community lay in the hands of a chosen imam. For some sects, the imam was a purely political leader, while for others, the imam held special knowledge, spiritual powers, or even divinity. But what united all Shia was the central belief that the imams traced their lineage back to the bloodline of Muhammad. The mainstream faction of these early Shia sects was the Abbasids, a group which traced the legitimate line of succession back to Muhammad's uncle Abbas. Like many early Shia sects, the Abbasids engaged in extensive religio-political missionary activity in the hopes of spreading their political and spiritual views across the Islamic world. For many early Shia groups, the aim was to overthrow the ruling Umayyad dynasty. The Shia held the Umayyads in particular contempt for leading a civil war, which resulted in several members of Muhammad's family being assassinated or disenfranchised. The Abbasid mission ultimately proved successful, resulting in the overthrow of the Umayyads and the establishment of an Abbasid line of caliphs in 750 CE. Unfortunately for the general Shia movement, however, the Abbasids turned against their former allies and inherited the Umayyads' position as the bastion of Sunni Islam. Knowing Shia tactics better than most, the Abbasids began to demonize their former rivals, painting any missionary activity as inherently transgressive and revolutionary. To this end, the Abbasids spread what scholars call the Black Legends, myths and propaganda responsible for many of our modern misconceptions regarding the later assassins. Assassins is the name given by Europeans to the Ismailis sect, which split off from the surviving Shia movement following the Abbasid Revolution. What distinguished the Ismailis from other Shia sects was their recognition of Ismail ibn Muhammad as the seventh imam and their belief in a cycle of 7 imams across 7 eras. Sunni and rival Shia factions took particular exception to this latter doctrine, seeing it as an attempt to infuse the number 7 with a religious significance that it had not until then possessed. Consequently, over the years, this doctrine became increasingly exaggerated and distorted in the Black Legends, eventually becoming one of the central myths regarding the assassins. Another central Ismaili belief was that the sect's leader, Ismail ibn Muhammad, had gone into hiding and was running the sect's mission through a series of intermediaries. Following their schism from the rest of the Shia movement, the Ismailis continued the early Shia's tradition of maintaining a religio-political mission, establishing pocket communities in hostile Sunni territory with the aim of overthrowing the ruling authorities. 3 generations after the foundation of the Ismaili sect, however, this mission fractured as its leader declared himself the descendant of Ismail ibn Muhammad, and he and his descendants would collectively stand in as the 7th Imam. Starting in 899 CE, this resulted in one half of the sect splitting off in protest and forming a new splinter group known as the Qarmashans. While the assassins have become a byword for political intrigue, subterfuge, and murder, it is, in fact, the Qarmashans who performed many of the violent actions for which the assassins would later become infamous. Operating out of what is now modern-day Bahrain and eastern Saudi Arabia, the Qarmashans opposed the mainstream Fatimid state and did much to block the spread of Islamism to the east. They led numerous clandestine campaigns against the Abbasid state, attacking pilgrims on their way to Mecca and slaughtering many of the inhabitants of the holy city itself in 930 CE. Many of the extreme theological and ethical beliefs commonly ascribed to the assassins were also in reality held by the Qarmashans. The Qarmashans abandoned many mainstream spiritual readings of the Quran and substituted more esoteric readings in order to justify their own unique theological positions. They also had periods in which they discarded Islamic jurisprudence and even core Islamic beliefs. Adding to their frightening reputation was the location of their home base in the treacherous desert east of Mecca, which allowed them to strike unexpectedly from any direction, an ability for which the assassins would become legendary. But while the Qarmashans and assassins were in fact 2 separate Ismaili sects, they ultimately became merged in the popular imagination. The non-Qarmashan Ismailis went on to form the Fatimid state in 909 CE. The Fatimid Caliphate quickly spread across North Africa and the Middle East, at its largest stretching from the Atlantic coast in present-day Morocco to Levant and Mecca. In 969, the Fatimids built what would become their most enduring legacy, the modern-day Egyptian capital of Cairo, which soon became the center of the Ismaili mission. The Fatimid state posed a significant threat to the Abbasids in the east, using its religio-political missions to build enclaves within foreign domains. The Fatimids used these enclaves to stage interventions with smaller states and to perform clandestine operations, which occasionally included assassinations. As with earlier forms of Shi'ism, the goal was to establish communities ready to take revolutionary action against the ruling authority, a subversive goal that further contributed to the exaggerations and embellishments of the Black Legends. The Qarmashan and Fatimid states, with their covert communities, caused much anxiety for the Abbasids, who responded by codifying what we now recognize as Sunni Islam as a form of counter-mission. These counter-missionary efforts by the Abbasids came to ascribe to Ismailism many of the qualities we now associate with the assassins. Later polemical texts written by Sunni and Twelver Shia scholars ascribed a variety of esoteric practices to the sect, including a 7-fold ritual of initiation meant to lead the initiate into nihilism. This legend was popularized by the 1938 Vladimir Bartol novel Alamut, inspiring the maxim, "Nothing is absolute reality, everything is permitted." In 1094, a succession crisis led to the Ismaili sect splitting in 2. One faction remained in the Fatimid Egyptian capital of Cairo and eventually fell to the famous general Saladin, while the other fled to the mountains of Persia and Syria. Though officially known as the Nazaris, this latter sect became far better known in the West by the name Assassins, after the cannabis-based drug hashish its followers were said to regularly consume. Based in the Syrian mountain fortress of Alamut, the Nazaris were led by a mysterious figure named Hassan Sabah, who became known as the Old Man of the Mountain in medieval literature and appeared in numerous accounts by European scholars and travelers like Marco Polo. The remote, impenetrable nature of the Alamut fortress lent it a particular particular mystique, with Hassan Sabbah being purported to have conquered it with magic. In reality, he most likely either converted its staff or simply bought the castle from the previous owner in 1087. But did the assassins actually perform any assassinations? Well, yes, but not the way popular culture would have you believe. Alamut occupied a precarious position between the much larger states, and political violence was sometimes necessary for the Naziris to ensure their own survival. Thus, assassination was a tool of political expedience and not a central duty or doctrine of the Nizari faith. In fact, many of their state rivals, including the Fatimids and Crusaders, also engaged in assassinations. The popular legends of hashish smoking and secret gardens hidden in the mountains are likewise the inventions of European writers, meant to further exoticize the mysterious East. In 1256, the Nizaris were driven out of Alamut by the Mongol invasion, leaving the Ismaili sect stateless. Yet the black legends about them persisted. Given that Sunni Islam was codified in the shadows of the Fatimid state and the Kamashtan terror, it is perhaps unsurprising that the assassins lived on in the Sunni imagination as the ultimate heretics and bogeymen. And for Europeans, the legend of the Nizaris fit perfectly into their image of the mysterious, dangerous East. Although they did negotiate with the Nizaris, Crusaders fighting in the Holy Land would have been largely stationed around Sunnis, meaning that most information they learned about the Nizaris would have come from a biased source. Thus, the legend of the assassins grew and mutated with each retelling, until a fairly normal, if isolated, Islamic sect became a mystical order of fanatical, drugged-out political killers. It just goes to show you can't believe everything you learn in a video game. So I really hope you found this video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you for watching.